one big fight I'd love to have been at was when Austin La Hoya fought with Shane Mosley. That would have been an amazing fight. And then another one would be one of Mike Tyson's fights, because I think whoever he fought, you don't know what to expect with Mike.
Oh, there's a few fights, but when I was younger, I was massive Marvin Hagler fan. You know, the 80s with Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. When I was growing, I was watching them fighters, and the fight, because you couldn't even watch it back then. My friends told me who won, but it was marvelous Marvin Hagler against Tommy Hearns, I think. Oh. That's a fight I'd love to be ringside. And I was so happy Hagler won because I'm a massive Hagler fan. 3-round war. Right. Some of the best 3 rounds I've ever seen, exciting. So.
Fight I could have been ringside for would have been Ali and Frazier fight essentially, Madison Square Garden, 1971. What a fight. And it was billed as the fight of the century. I just think that the build up to that and the expectations around it, if you were lucky enough to be ringside at that event, these are huge events, you know what I mean, that people still talking about 50 years later. So that one for me, I think.
I would have to say the second fight between Carl Froch and George Groves.
Oh, wow.
Carl takes pride. Carl, yeah, he's like, Carl takes pride in his 80,000. Well, yeah, just gonna tell you that I watch everything now, and even as an American, I would love to fight, in Wembley Stadium and that type of atmosphere, things that nature, But yeah, that's definitely that fight, and maybe I could say for me, growing up as a kid, the first fight between Oscar De La Hoya and Shane Mosley.
Tyson, Evander Holyfield, the ear-biting moment. Or Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. Them fights, them legendary fights that go down in history. The fights that, people talk about until the day they die. They're the sort of fights I'd love to be involved. At least I wish I watched ringside.
Pacquiao De La Hoya. I really loved that fight. Pacquiao Cotto. I thought that fight was amazing. Pacquiao Cotto, I would have loved to have sat there and watched that. It's just Pacquiao in his peak was just unbelievable. So if I had been there, come to the time machine and went to that fight, I'd definitely go to that one.
I know everybody dimmed it a little bit, but I think Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, because only the proper boxing people will appreciate that fight. It wasn't a fan-friendly fight. It wasn't blood and guts and everything like that, but the actual technique and class that was showed that night, that was unbelievable. And I wish I could have seen it up close and personal, because obviously you got two of the best ever going at it.
Muhammad Ali, George Foreman.
Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman. Everyone thought he was going to get killed. Everyone thought that George Foreman at the time, I don't know what his record was, but it was monstrous. He was knocking at everyone in dramatic fashion. And no one expected that. Nobody expected that.
There's so many I wish I could have been ringside for. I think Diego Corrales, Castillo, that round 9, what a drama of a fight. I think Barrera, Morales, the first fight would have been absolutely sensational. There's so many great Mickey Ward Gattis, but I think I'd like to be sat for the Barrera Morales, the first fight, because there was so much passion, so much Mexican rivalry, between them. And I tell you what, the Mexican rivalry would have been as fierce to the people in the stand that you may have been sitting next to. I can imagine, because the Mexicans are such proud nations, you know what I mean? I think it would have been great watching the fight, but been great watching the audience, because I think the audience should have been just as excited as the fight. So I think that was my favourite fight of all time. I think that's the one I think I'd rather be at ringside for, yeah.
My 2 favourite fights are Nigel Benjen and McLennan. Obviously, terrible what happened after it. But yeah, it's that and JAMEL Matthew Macklin. So either of them two mates I wish I was excited for.
Wilder Fury first one. I think that would have been very intense kind of atmosphere.
There are many actually, but one that springs to mind because he was an all-time favourite of mine was Marvin Hagler. So it would have to be Hagler Hearns, I think. those opening rounds were just sensational, weren't they? And Vegas as well. I mean, we all love Vegas these days, going out to fights in Vegas, but to see that, I think that one springs to mind. Because like I say, Muhammad Ali was my all-time favourite, but when I was growing up, the guy that I looked at was Marvin Hagler, because I thought he was the best all-rounder out there. He could fight, he could box, he had an incredible chin, and he had a great engine, so I'd probably go with Hagler. Hagler Hearns for me.